Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for what is going to be another jam-packed daily cryptocurrency market update. And as always, if you are new to this channel and finding yourself on my videos for the first time today, don't forget to check out that subscribe button, because we drop an update just like this one around 1 p.m. UK time every single day to help you guys navigate the cryptocurrency markets, but also the broader markets. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this video. We will be looking at the broader markets and global liquidity and what we think is to come in regards to the Fed actually stepping in and pumping the markets with liquidity to support the bond market towards the end of the video. And the first question that I have to ask you is, did you survive yesterday's price action? We certainly did. And actually, if you have, and this is why we don't encourage people to trade on smaller timeframes or even look at the smaller timeframe charts, get on the right side of the trend and make the money by riding that trend. So if it's an uptrend, you want to hold. If it's a downtrend, if you don't want to short the market, and shorting the market, I believe, is a lot harder than longing the market, just be out the market. And right now we are in a bull market, a raging bull market, and you are going to have volatility. You are going to have pullbacks along the way. Bitcoin yesterday actually touched a new all-time high before getting harshly rejected. This is a very expected thing to happen. You know, you're always to expect all-time highs as resistance. We'll look at some other charts and what they did when they approached all-time highs, like the S&P. You know, markets often follow a similar rhythm and path. But if you have a broader view on the markets, like what we teach here on the channel, then you shouldn't have been worried by yesterday at all, in fact, because this is an uptrend. If you look at how far Bitcoin's came, you know, a pullback is kind of warranted, expected, okay, yeah, it was a rather brutal one. I think Bitcoin at one point sold off to the tune of like 11, 12%. Altcoins got smashed. Actually, altcoins really just came back and tested support that was previously resistance that they broke out of on volume. Very healthy, you know, for somebody like myself who trades the market on a daily basis, it was interesting. I think I started the day around about 6K up. Within 24 hours, you know, this is the kind of money you can make from trading once you master it, but there's a kind of baptism of fire and hardship that will get you to that point. And then I think I closed the day out something like 2K. So I left like 4K on the table, given yesterday's volatility. Can you handle that? I think many people can't. But we're only really focused on it from an investment point of view. So the best place for me to start is with the Bitcoin chart. And we don't try and scare people. You know, you should have, and we'll just wipe and make sure there's no lines on here, expected all-time high to act as resistance. And actually, if we go to the daily candles, and we'll add all the draws on in just a second, this was an interesting candle, certainly an engulfing candle, but since then, Bitcoin's climbed its way back up. And actually, this was huge volume that we saw here. So I think people were really taking advantage of this. You know, in the same way we've been forming head and shoulders the whole way up, you do this thing with markets. When you go up and down, you do it in this kind of, it's called nestling head and shoulders, this kind of whiteboard, what you used to draw on the whiteboard shaped pattern up and down. And you can see this pattern replicated across the board. You know, you could see it on the way down here. You can see it on the way up here. Could we, and is there potential for us to set up some sort of a cup? I think it would be more of a cup and handle here than the likes of a head and shoulders, just because, you know, I mean, your neckline would be down here. It's possible, you know, if we did get that, you would be looking at like a 250K Bitcoin. Right now we're on the path to 150K. Nice big round number. We have a technical projection there, just like we were projecting 42K earlier this year. So all is well. If you are zoomed in on the small time frames and not paying attention to the broader trend that we're in, you would have been shook out yesterday. It was very interesting for altcoins, certainly altcoins like ICP, which was the one that I was long just in time for that break. You know, it was, I think, within 12 hours or something like 5 or 6K up. By the way, if you become a Patreon, you'll see proof of all this. I think I'm one of the few people that actually shows receipts and shows evidence for what I'm saying. And that's what I've always based myself on, you know, is being able to back up, not only walk the walk, sorry, talk the talk, but I can walk the walk. And, you know, there was altcoins. ICP was a really interesting one. They got hit pretty hard. If we look at something like Hedera, we'll do a longer video on Hedera tomorrow. This was literally just a retest. And for many of your altcoins, we've used Injective as a kind of blueprint. We'll use a Binance chart. This is kind of where you're at. and you've got this to come. You know, you're going to hopefully form a bigger structure on the way up and you know, see broader upside. But everything is okay. Not only Bitcoin bouncing back, altcoins bouncing back. To go on to a little bit of fundamental news, despite yesterday's sell-off, actually yesterday was the biggest day for inflows in regards to the top 10 ETFs, or the 10 Bitcoin ETFs. There are only currently 10 Bitcoin spot ETFs in the US. There's lots further abroad. There was also big inflows into the kind of futures Bitcoin ETFs, the 2X ETFs as well. This was from Eric Balanchunas, great guy to follow. You should all be following him by now. Milestone, the top 10 Bitcoin ETFs did 10 billion in volume today, smashing previous records set last Wednesday. Volatility and volume go hand in hand with ETFs, so not totally surprised. That said, these are bananas numbers for ETFs under 2 months old. You've got IBIT, Fidelity's Bitcoin, Bitwise's Bitcoin, and 21 Shares is Bitcoin product. And you can see the sort of volumes that you're seeing here. Spectacular. I'll move the screen so you can see this. Eric then goes on to say, BitEye blew away its record by more than most. Perhaps not a surprise considering it is a short Bitcoin ETF. So this is what I'm talking about with the futures. Imagine when these 2x and minus 2x spot Bitcoin ETFs are launched. Trading crowds are going to flock to couple them. BitO also broke its record. So did BitX. Interesting, the favorable impact spot craze has had on futures ETFs. Huge spillover effects. Didn't anticipate that. Let's talk in a year. But for now, they are loving it. So you are going to have, you know, why did we see? We also looked at CoinShares' product. That was one of the ETPs that is a short Bitcoin product, and that saw inflows. Now, that is just simply because you were approaching a very key technical level for Bitcoin, and you know, you should expect resistance to act exactly as that, and you did get a brutal. I mean, this week's going to be interesting. I'm interested to see the kind of close here. You know, you can see the kind of, to go to a 2-hourly candle, you look at this. And this is still in a bit of a danger zone, still in a bit of a sort of marginally double toppy zone. You need to go on and put in a high here. It could square up. If it kind of goes sideways, I think that's going to allow altcoins to somewhat flourish. We are seeing things like HBAR coming back rather strong. We're waiting for things like ICP and a number of others. But there's no need to panic at all in regards to yesterday's price action. It's to be expected. Remember what's fundamentally going on here. BlackRock bought 12,447 Bitcoin yesterday. That's 14 times the daily supply pre-halvening. So there's going to be, you know, it's very interesting the kind of situation that Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market finds itself in. And it's one that fundamentally you've got to be bullish on, and technically. So I'm not 100% convinced to kind of finish our point off on Bitcoin before we move on to the sort of global macro. I'm not convinced. I think you could have a bit more of a setting up here of some sort of a cup and handle or something like that. I would like to see that. That maybe is in line also with, but don't bet on downside in this market, guys. That's also in line with how you play out historically going into a halvening. So this is the first time Bitcoin pre-halvening has actually gone on and put in a new high. Typically around the halvening, you do get kind of a lull period. I'm not sure that, I mean, you know, Bitcoin's kind of not quite followed it perfectly this time. It kind of has broadly. That lull period could coincide with a bit of a cup and handle, which would be very bullish and ultimately set us up for continuation. There's nothing to worry about in regards to sell-off. If Bitcoin just goes sideways, I think altcoins could really flourish under that environment. We're going to be doing a video. You know, you can see this Bitcoin dominance really in range here, where we're going to talk about why I'm 100% confident you're going to get an Ethereum ETF that's technically based, looking at things like ETH dominance and ETH BTC, and also bringing in things like Bitcoin dominance, others dominance, that kind of stuff, because we are going to see altcoins really start to make, I think, an aggressive move against Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is going to be making and continue to be making an aggressive move against the dollar and the other currencies. We have some sort of macro news. Today's interesting. So you do have some stuff coming out from the ECB. in regards to when banks are looking to cut rates. They might shed a little bit of light on what the Fed's looking to do. You know, you've got a number of things. You've got ADP today, you've got JOLTS, job openings. We'll see what this all comes out at. You've also got some of the FOMC members, or one, daily speaking. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, non-farm payroll on Friday is something to watch. This is something that we brought up and continue to bring up. Now, this is the kind of global liquidity index. Remember, we're technically bullish on the markets. We understand that historic correlation with rates in the markets and that rates lag. It's what allowed us to kind of move away from the crowd last year and be long. But this is showing, going into an election, that global liquidity is on the up and up. And I actually think, and I've not heard all these macro LARPs, and that's what they are. You know, they're economists. And I know a number of them very well. I'm not going to mention any names. And they're all talking about crypto right now because it's the thing, even though they haven't got a clue what they're on about. Make the worst investors and traders ever. I mean, they're just bad at it. And it's because, you know, the technical analysis will often trump theory. But to talk a little bit about theory, this is TLT, which is the 20-year plus treasury bonds. Now, they're issuing a shed load of them. At a time when they're looking to drop interest rates. We are now bullish on bonds. Who is going to buy those bonds? Look at the volume that is coming in here. When you have a bullish divergence, in my opinion, signaling accumulation. This is insiders front running what I believe is going to be Fed liquidity. They are currently propping and selling those bonds and getting the money from it from the overnight reserve repo. This went from $2 trillion, $2.6 trillion, all the way down to $440 billion. This is going to go to close to zero again, I believe. Who's then going to step in and pick up the bid for the bonds? Well, I believe it's going to be the Fed. I think global liquidity is pointing at that. I think the bond market is pointing at that. And we're bullish on housing, which is a very interest rate sensitive market. And the Fed's QT is kind of an illusion. You know, okay, they're not buying the bond market because they don't have to. The reserve repo can do that for them for the time being. But they will have to look at where markets bottomed and look at the Federal Reserve balance sheet. Obviously, you know the historic correlation here. We can show you the US money supply. I'm going to do a real long video on this. It's already out on Patreon, where I'm actually going to be talking about who's going to be buying this debt and go into a lot more detail on why I think it's the Fed and the kind of Ponzi-esque nature of this system and how you can arbitrage it and, you know, through financial education, move the needle in your life by owning assets and doing what the rich do, doing what the informed money does, doing what Warren Buffett has always done. And there's that great picture of him laughing with all the politicians because he knows it's a proliferation game and all you need to do is arbitrage that and get on the other side of it. It's not going to last forever, but it's going to last, I think, for a little bit longer. And I think the Fed is about to step in, and that's what global liquidity signaling, that's what TLT signaling, which is 20-year plus treasury bonds. They're issuing a hell of a lot more of them. Why would we be bullish on that? Retail isn't going to pick up that bid, and actually, you could say banks will, but it'll be indirectly from the Fed. So there's a lot of macro stuff that we continue to keep an eye on going on. Don't panic in regards to Bitcoin. If you're following people that are panicking you and kind of worrying you and don't understand the broader context of the market they're in, it's time to unsubscribe to them. You know, this channel isn't for everybody. Some people just don't like the content or don't like me. That's absolutely fine. We're not here to just say things that we think people want to hear. We're here to say things that we think will actually help people out, give them a good overview on the markets. Thus far, I think we've done a pretty damn good job of it. Also, altcoins really starting to wake up. You know, lots of altcoins just came back and tested resistance in the same way of what we showed you Injective did. But I don't want to ramble on for too much longer. We've gone on for nearly 14 minutes now, guys. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. If you've enjoyed the content, like is appreciated. So is a comment. Don't forget to become a subscriber. Also, check me out on Twitter and go and check out allincrypto.com. And if you want to become a patron, link in the description. Thanks a lot for watching. See you all in the next one.